that we could have a short introduction of each participant. And also, our senior sister would like to see you all once. So, at the end of the session, I request you all to turn on your videos. Om Shanti. I welcome Sister Tina to start with today's session.
Okay. Om Shanti. Good morning, everyone. Um, I was meditating this morning and I was just feeling so much appreciation for each one of you, because I've been talking for last 7 days and you've been patiently listening. So I was really appreciating. And maybe you also feel, that your intellect has allowed you to attend these sessions, because otherwise you could be sleeping, you could be doing so many other things, right? But you decided to do this, so I was just appreciating and feeling really good about this, that you all are fortunate. Yeah. So let's start with a little meditation and then we'll go into the session.
We are living in times of a wonderful awakening. And those of us who have been called onto the spiritual path are finding that our purpose in this life is to remember who we truly are, to take the journey back to a life that's filled with that remembrance. Begin this journey now by allowing yourself to take the first step of meditation. Forget everything of the world. Forget your story, forget your history, forget the dramas that surround you. Just forget it. Let it all go and leave the shore of the world. Allow yourself to enter into a space of peace. Allow this forgetting to naturally carry you into the eternal peace of your soul. Our journey is to return to this peace. And on that return journey, we need the support of the Supreme Being, the highest, most beautiful being in the universe. Allow yourself right now to absorb the light of God, the peace of God, the warm and sweet love of God into your being. One of the reasons why it's so important to take this support is that God is that one being who never comes into the body. That one being who never forgets the reality of being the soul. The rest of us go on a journey in this world and develop spiritual amnesia. We become locked into the physical, into matter, into form. But God is that one being who remains beyond it, so that when we are ready to take that journey back to our light, when we no longer want to live in the darkness, God is the Supreme Mother, as the Supreme Father, as the friend to humanity, is waiting to guide us on that journey. Allow yourself to sit in this light of God, to be embraced by it, to to allow it to awaken your power. In the love of God, our beauty becomes revealed to us. We feel a deep sense of connection, a deep sense of power, a deep sense of support, and to make the journey back to our true self. This support is essential. This companionship is essential. Many people, when they have near-death experiences, experience this warm light of love, the supreme being who knows them better than anyone on the planet. But we don't need to die to experience that. We only need to forget the world temporarily in our meditations, to let it all go as we allow ourselves to enter into peace, to enter into the heart of the most beautiful being in the universe. And all you have to do is rest in this light. Allow yourself to be rejuvenated by this light. Allow yourself to be absorbed in the pure, powerful energy of this light. All of humanity is on the return journey to remembrance. But in order to bring this light back into the world, it helps to have the companionship of God, the experience of God. In God's light, our own beauty and eternal goodness awakens, so that we can return to the world to light it up with joy, with power, and with radiance.
Om Shanti. So today we have two parts. One is I would like to summarize what we have done so far. By the way, if you really like this commentary, then there are lots of these ones. Just type Release Your Wings on YouTube. You will get commentaries by BB. So we would like to look at the Yajna history. You know, we call this as organization because things have to be organized. There are a lot of people, a lot of souls, right, who are practicing meditation. And so everybody can be together in a very harmonious way. So that's why it's an organization. But also, if you look deeply and understand knowledge, then you would realize that this is also a family. And sometimes it's also called as yagya because we sacrifice our vices here, and then what we come out as is the divine being, right? And so we would like to know a little bit about the history of this yagya, right? How this all started and how things happened. And instead of me telling you, I have a very nice video. I think if you see it, you will enjoy. So what I would like to say is just relax, enjoy for next 20 minutes or so, and just let yourself experience, you know, being part of this history that we will see now. Okay. So I'm going to share with you.
Welcome to the story of the Mandali. Welcome to the story of the Yajna. Welcome to your story. The Brahma Kumaris was founded by the son of a schoolmaster in Hyderabad, Sindh. He was born Lekraj Kubchand Kripalani on the 15th of December, 1884. Lekraj was a jeweler and referred to as Bhai Lekraj. Bhai Lekraj was a devotional man, and he would spend the mornings reading the Gita and discussing spiritual ideas with his friends. But as his interest increased further, his guru advised him to start reading the Gita to others, to help his understanding. Spiritual gatherings were popular at that time, and so people in Lekraj's community began to gather at his home to listen to him read the Gita. The gathering was an intimate one, with most members related to each other through birth or through marriage. With husbands and fathers away for long periods on business, satsangs gave women and children the chance to come together in a positive and fruitful way. In 1932, Bhai Lekraj started becoming more serious about his spiritual study. He spoke to his mind every day, trying to understand it and scribbling his thoughts and feelings in his diary. The readings of the Gita at his home helped to deepen his understanding. So he kept reading, and others kept listening. In January 1934, Lekraj's uncle died. This was a decisive moment for him, and he began to turn his mind even more deeply to spiritual matters. Bhai Lekraj became Satyana, meaning 60-ish. At the age of 54, Lekraj entered Vanprasth, the age of retirement. A short time later, Bhai Lekraj arranged a large reception at his home in Hyderabad for his guru. And while his guru was speaking, Lekraj got up and walked out. Now, it was unlike Lekraj to do something so socially awkward, so his daughter-in-law, Prajindra, followed him. And as she watched, Prajindra reported seeing light around Lekraj, and she felt bodiless. She reported hearing the following words emerge in a whisper from Lekraj's mouth. It was not uncommon for spiritual leaders to say, Shivoham, Shivoham. But it would be many years before Lekraj or Prajindra would understand the significance of what happened. This experience was life-changing for Lekraj, and in 1935 he travelled to Varanasi. Bhai Lekraj was aching to understand what was happening within him, and he almost compulsively drew circles on the walls of his friend's home, time and again, time and again. When Lekraj returned, he and those who gathered with him started the practice of chanting Om. Those inside started having visions and going into trance. Those outside started calling the gathering Om Mandali. It was these experiences, visions, and deep reflections that brought the community to their first point of understanding about the soul. They clearly understood that each one was a spiritual being, separate from the body. The soul was Aham Brahm Asmi, or a form of God. The soul was infinite, divine light. In 1936, Lecrage had 3 visions. One of a devastating world destruction. One of a blissful paradise. And one of the 4-armed god Vishnu, accompanied by the words, "You are this." Others also continued to have visions of divine beings, of Krishna, Vishnu, and light. The love and belonging of that time was unique, and to this day remains unmatched. By then, Lecrage was being addressed Baba, Om Baba, Bhagavan, and Mandali Mata. They knew the soul was Aham Brahmasmi and infinite light. Now they understood that time went in a 5,000-year, endlessly repeating cycle of 4 ages. They believed that the soul and God traveled through the 4 castes. Brahmin in the Golden Age, Kshatriya in the Silver Age, Vaishya in the Copper Age, and Shudra in the Iron Age. They also thought that the Golden Age would be played out in the celestial world, that the deities would have this knowledge during the Golden and Silver Ages, and it would then gradually die out over 5,000 years, to then be reborn, next cycle, through Prajapati, God Brahma. They felt the destruction of the old world was imminent. There would not be another Diwali. In 1937, Om Baba travelled with his family to Kashmir for a few months. He left Om Mandali in the hands of the main sister, Mama, and sisters Kumarka and Manmohini, who would read Baba's letters to the class. Om Baba spent time in solitude, seeking further clarity. But even in his absence, the community in Hyderabad continued to experience trance and visions. When Om Baba returned, he told others with conviction that there was another power working within him, and that this was more than a mandali, but a divine yagya. Others continued to see Om Baba in the form of Krishna and Vishnu. So for them, his claims only confirmed their belief that he was indeed God incarnate. In October of that same year, Om Baba established a trust, handing over his significant wealth and property to a small group of young sisters. Om Baba had profound faith in the ability of young women to be true spiritual leaders. He remained an advisor. And while Mandali gained strength in numbers as well as conviction, some of the men began returning home from their journeys. Within a short time, they found out about Om Mandali and the focus on purity. There was an outcry from the entire community. Women were becoming forthright and independent, and children were leaving their families. The independence of women and the practice of purity was a threat to traditional life. For the head of at least one family, the mere existence of Om Mandali was a grave danger to society. Picketing and protesting from families and the broader community began, and threats of legal battles ensued. But despite their lack of intellectual understanding, members had great confidence that they were the same souls of the previous cycle, that they were the chosen ones, that they could transform the world of sorrow to bring the world of happiness. There was absolutely no doubt, no thought, and no desire to be or to do anything else. The protests turned increasingly violent, and so the community moved to Karachi. But despite the move, the conflict followed them, as did a series of court cases brought by the families to try to disband Mandali. That same year, Mama was cross-examined by a magistrate. She gave evidence. I am God, all are God, and Mandali itself is God. Mama explained, there is no difference between male and female, because all are God. There is no difference between a dedicated one and a householder, because, with knowledge, both are as pure as the lotus flower. Feelings of being bodiless increased. They felt they were merging with the Brahm element, the element of light. Even the first pictures of the cycle and the tree have infinite divine light written around them. After extended legal battles, the case against Mandali was finally thrown out. Around this time, the community stopped reading the Gita and started to note down the distinctive knowledge that Om Baba was now sharing. They called these notes Vanis. Around 1942, the role of Brahma was clarified for the very first time. A young sister, Pushpa, went into trance, and then a whispering voice spoke through her. Om Baba referred to this personality as Piyu, meaning the beloved. Om Baba was curious about this personality and its power, and he began calling the spoken versions Piyu Vanis, meaning versions of the beloved. Piyu gave Om Baba the name Brahma, and, speaking through another sister in trance, clarified the role of Brahma as creator. However, many others weren't convinced. During this time of great intoxication and love, everyone gave even more titles to Brahma. Brahma, though, still wondered, who was this Piyu? Brahma Baba relied on a series of trance messengers for further understanding. Knowledge was still based on Aham Brahmasmi, I am light, a form of God, or Aham Chaturbhuj, I am Vishnu, a form of God. After 10 years of being together, Gulzar, a hesitant and shy young girl, had the first experience of Brahma in the subtle regions. This was a critical point in the development of their understanding. Mama and Baba would ask Gulzar to pose questions to this being who was like cotton wool. Sometimes the figure would remain silent. Other times there were brief but mysterious answers. Over a period of time, though, this angelic being was a great source of inspiration to the Yagya. In 1943, during a collective month of silence, an important point was clarified. Piyu entered a sister in trance and said, the figure up there is the perfect and complete Brahma, and the one down here is the effort-making form. The one down here will become like the one up there. From 1943 through the early 1950s, Avyakt Brahma was a source of tremendous inspiration. During these years, while World War II was going on, the Yagya reasoned that this was the very same Mahabharata war spoken of in the scriptures, and the old world would be destroyed in 1950. Still inspired by the Gita, they felt they were living the famous story of the Pandavas' 13-year exile. They felt there would be 13 years between the official beginning of the Yagya and the total demise of the old world. On the 14th of August, 1947, was the partition of India and Pakistan. And it was a time of untold chaos and violence. The Yagya maintained silence for protection and also to develop their spiritual strength. The high wall that Baba had built earlier to protect them from community rebellion served them well during the social and political violence of partition. Around this time, a young dedicated brother, Anand Kishore, started to feel that there was indeed a divine, beautiful, and unique personality working through Brahma. But this clarity and perception was not common. Some saw a special sparkle and light on Brahma's face and forehead from time to time. But for most, Baba was Baba. In 1949, Brahma is still in the pictures as Prajapati God Brahma. Baba, however, was becoming convinced that there was a completely distinct and divine personality at work, somehow. In May 1950, the Yagya left Pakistan. By steamer, they travelled from Karachi to the port of Oka, India. As the knowledge had recently started to become clearer, Baba directed all literature documenting their early understandings to be destroyed. Many were reluctant to leave their precious diaries, so Baba told them a story that if they buried their books, they would be discovered as sacred texts on the path of devotion next cycle. It was the only way they would leave the written record of their extraordinary lives behind. Once they arrived at Oka, they boarded the train, and off they went to begin their new lives in Rajasthan. The Yagya arrived at the hill station of Mount Abu. After a brief time at Brijkoti, they moved to Pokhran House, the current site of Pandav Bhavan. Named after the garden where Krishna played, they called the ashram Madhuban. But while everyone came, not everyone stayed. They faced a time of scarcity and poverty. From a comfortable life in a warm environment by the sea, they were living with little food, poor nourishment, and cold weather at high altitudes. Many children got sick, and many others returned home to their families. In the early 1950s, Shiv Baba was thought of as the oval form. In the posters, infinite divine light and God Brahma were replaced by the presence of incorporeal God Shiva. A lot more was clarified, like the understanding of mind, intellect, and sanskaras. The differences between Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Shankar, and Krishna all became clear. Service began in centres outside of Madhuban, and Brahma Baba became known as Prajapita, father of the people, in contrast to Prajapati, lord of the world. Understanding and further clarification continued through trance in Madhuban, as well as other centres all through India. By then, everyone understood that Shiv Baba and Brahma Baba were two distinct entities. Reportedly, though, many still felt that beloved Baba was beloved Baba, whether there were two or one. The relationship between Shiv Baba and Brahma Baba, or Bab and Dada, was further clarified in the late 1950s.
I think there is some connection problem.
Shiv Baba is God, the mother and father. Brahma Baba is the elder brother, the first prince of the Golden Age, and the father of the people. God was not omnipresent. The Supreme Soul was a conscious, distinct point. The knowledge of the soul as a point of light also became clear, and the oval form of God was given a little white point in the center. Two entities were clearly at work, and Shiv Baba was supreme. With this important revelation, Brahma Baba once again directed all records of previous knowledge to be destroyed for the second time, so that there would be no trace of wrong understanding remaining. On the 24th of June, 1965, beloved Mama, the main sister, left her body.
You all cannot see, right? Okay.
Left his corporeal body.
I don't know how to make this work, but I think there is some internet connection problem. So anyway, I mean, it's a beautiful video. Only part of it is left, but maybe if you just type in Om Mantali, the birth of knowledge in YouTube, you can look for it, right? Would that be okay? But it's a beautiful video in the sense it is telling us that how in the beginning nobody really understood, what the knowledge is and what is happening. But eventually, as years passed by, there was more and more clarity and understanding that Shiv Baba is different, Brahma Baba is different. Before there was this feeling that I am God, but then afterwards they understood that God is a completely different entity in and of itself, right? So that's how the yagya actually started. And now in 1969 Baba left, but after that also the versions are continued. And then in 1970 the service began in foreign lands. So for the first time it was in London, then Guyana, then Americas, then all other places. And now we have centers in more than 130 countries, right, with more than 9,000 centers all over the world. So it's grown in like one big global spiritual family. Yeah. So what I plan to do next was to revise and summarize whatever we have learned so far, but also the big question that we understood that I am this body, right? I am the soul. I'm not the body. And but even if I say I'm not the body, but I am influenced by the body. I'm influenced by the body relationships, by the environment, by my work, by the world in general. And so the question is, how do I keep that balance? I have these relationships and responsibilities which I have to take care, but at the same time I also want to have the vision of soul consciousness. And generally, if you see, people who go on spiritual quest, right? They leave everything behind. They leave the family, they leave the work, they leave everything, and then they go into jungles and they try to search what or find the truth, right? But here we can't do that, right? Because we saw in law of karma that if I have responsibilities, if I have children, if I have family, if I have work, then I have to fulfill all of those responsibilities, right? And so, having all of these demands on my life, how do I keep the balance between spiritual well being and physical well being? And so, that's what we will look at today. I don't think I'm able to share my screen either. Can you all see? Are you all able to see? Can you see? No?
No.
So, I don't know why you're not able to see. It's actually. So, how do we do this? Maybe I will log out and then come back in. Maybe that might help. Yeah? Give me 1 second. Okay, I'm going to log out and then come back in. Okay. So I'm not able to show you my screen. I don't know what's happening. But anyway, I can still talk to you all. Maybe you just imagine. Okay. And so we talk about the four pillars usually, and 4 pillars of Rajyoga when we want to bring the balance between the spiritual well-being um, and the physical well-being, right? And just like I'm sitting on this chair, it has 4 legs, right? When I have 4 legs to this chair and they are good, then I can sit properly. I can sit in a stable way, right? But even if one chair is moving, and even if one leg is moving, then I might be difficult to sit on this chair, right? There must be some fluctuation or something. And so, similarly, when we talk about Raj Yoga and bringing that into our life, then there are 4 pillars of these. And the first one is called the pillar of daily study. And what I mean by daily study is that every day we have this practice of studying something, more spiritual in nature. And it's funny, my elder sister is here. She's joined the sessions with all of us. And I've watched her over 20 years. She does exercise every day regularly and, with a lot of consistency. So I was just asking her the other day that what is the motivation behind doing this exercise? What motivates you? Because I also try to do, but sometimes I'm able to do and sometimes I'm not able to do. So and then she said that I know it'll help my health. It was such a simple answer. I was expecting something very complicated she would say, but she just said, I know that this is going to help my health. And so I was just looking at her that yes, she's been doing exercise. And so she has a pretty healthy body today. And today she's doing the exercise. So tomorrow she will probably have a very good body as well, right? So it's like past becomes present and present becomes future. So it's same way. If I exercise, then I am making my muscles strong. I'm increasing my flexibility, right? And so this is for the physical body, right? So for the similarly for the spiritual well-being, I need to have this. I need to build my spiritual muscles. I lost track seeing this picture, you know. So, um, so basically, I am saying that we need to have these spiritual muscles to be built again and again, right? And when I build these spiritual muscles, basically what I am doing, every time I listen to a point of knowledge, every time I hear this, I invite my memory to be activated, you know, for the memories to reawaken. I allow my mind to become more peaceful. I allow my intellect to become more stable, right? So, in this way, I'm increasing my spiritual strength. And more I practice, more I become better at it, right? In the beginning, if I'm not used to doing exercise, I can't do 1 hour exercise, right? I have to start with 5 minutes and then 10 minutes and then 20 minutes. So, similarly, with my daily spiritual practice, I have to start with slow, right? Start with 5 minutes and then 10 minutes, and then you increase it like that, right? And so how I do is basically every day morning we hear a point, right? We have a class and we listen. And when I listen to the class, I just pick like 3 or 4 points. And I use those 3 or 4 points to practice throughout my day. So that's how I strengthen my muscles, right? I strengthen my memory or the concentration power of my mind and intellect, right? So that is the first pillar. The second pillar is about purity, you know, and purity really means like having pure thoughts for the mind. And imagine now, you know, we can say that we're sitting in this home. I'm sitting in this house for like 2 months now, right? But once in a while, I will go outside and I feel so good. You know, even if I have to go to put my trash, right, garbage outside, I feel happy that, oh, I get a chance to go outside. Why? Because I'm getting fresh air. The body feels refreshed, right? The body feels good. So we also have clean water, right? Because that's what the body likes. Or we will have clean food, right? So that's for the body. So similarly for the mind, I like to have clean thoughts, right? And suppose, for example, if you are busy listening to negative news, or you're indulging too much into gossiping or complaining, or you fight with somebody, then everything that you absorb through the senses, any and every information that you take through the senses, the mind has to process it, right? So whatever I see through my eyes or listen to my eyes or, you know, smell or touch or whatever, everything the mind has to process. So if I take negative information inside, then my mind has to process, and how much time it will take for it to, you know, get rid of it, right? It's just like with physical body. If I indulge into too much of oily food, or, you know, too much of junk food, then my body needs a lot of time to process it, right? So it's same thing. So what I need to do here is, when I say purity of the mind, I am inviting you to give your mind or feed your mind with pure thoughts. And more you are able to feed your mind with pure thoughts, that's what will then the mind will give you, right? And even if somebody looks at you, the way they speak to you, the way they behave with you, nothing will matter, because inside you have a stock of good thoughts, right? And that's what will come out. And then the third thing, the third pillar is about imbibing. The third step is about the diet. And when you see diet, we do believe in Brahma Kumaris to have light and vegetarian food, right? And basically, the reason is that if I want to sit and meditate, right, then I don't want to eat too heavy food, because that would make me so heavy that when I sit for meditation, it would make me fall asleep. And sleep is maybe very relaxing, but it does not allow me to accumulate any spiritual powers, right? And so light food is very important. Also, there is power in cooking, you know. When you cook your food, if you are cooking in anger or you're cooking out of frustration, then that does not really serve the purpose, right? It is always nice to cook the food in very good state of mind. You know, the way you buy vegetables, the way you cook your food, and then once you cook your food, then you offer that food to God. At least say thank you, you know, express or extend your gratitude for whatever you have received. And then when you eat your food, you eat as well in an environment where it is peaceful, it's quiet, you know, not to indulge too much into talk, you know, when you are eating. Sometimes people talk about business, sometimes people are in conflict when they're eating, or sometimes they're watching TV, which has a lot of violence or a lot of negative news going on. So that does not help us. And the reason is basically, you might know that in science, you know, according to quantum physics, they believe that every matter, everything in the matter has energy, right? There is vibration. And every molecule, every atom, right, has an energy, has a vibration. And so the vibrations affect us. So there is some intelligence in food also, you know, the atoms and the molecules, the way they are formed when you're cooking that food or when you're eating that food, that those molecules know where it has to be absorbed in the body, you know. And if I have to take a gross example, let's say you eat something that has calcium in it, right? And if it is cooked in proper way, if it has been eaten in proper way, then the calcium should be deposited or be absorbed by the bones, right, or by your teeth, right? But if it is not processed properly, if it is not eaten in proper awareness, then the calcium gets deposited, say for example, in gallbladder or in kidneys, you know, and what happens? Stones are formed then, right? So diseases are invited in that way. So that's why we say that everything, you know, in food has a lot of energy and it affects our body. And body is a valuable instrument that I as a soul have, so I have to value it, I have to respect it. And also plant-based diet is the other reason, is we believe in non-violence, right? And so that's why we say having food which is light, which is easy to digest, which is made in remembrance of God, you know, which is served in remembrance of God, so eaten in remembrance of God. So that really gives us a lot of strength. So that's how we you know, you can experiment with it. You know, there have been people who have, like Emoto's experiment, you might know, where people have done experiment with water, right? And this scientist has two different glasses of water, one where he's giving these vibrations of peace, love, and joy, and the other glass is kept where people are thinking about violence and war and jealousy and anger. And then when he looks at the crystals of the water, the one with the pure vibrations, the crystals are very beautiful, very uniform, and, you know, looking like the ice crystals, how they look. But the crystals that are coming from the water, which has received negative vibrations, it's all deformed in shape. There is no proper shape to that crystal. And most of our body is made out of water, right? So how do I drink water? What do I give to my body? So all of that matters a lot. So that's why we do emphasize on diet, and you can experiment with that one. And the fourth one is the good company, you know, because there is a saying, right? Birds of same feather flock together, right? Or there's a saying, show me who the friends are and I will show you who the man is, right? So just by knowing your friends, people can tell a lot about you. The kind of books you read, the kind of films you watch, the kind of news you listen to, the kinds of songs you hear, and all of that tell a lot about you as a person. And so it's very important that I take care of my company. Again, for the same reason that whatever information I am letting in through my senses, that is going to affect my thoughts, that is going to affect my spiritual well-being. And so it's important that I pay attention to what I am taking in, right? So those are the 4 pillars of Raj Yoga, and then I wanted to share with you the 4 subjects that we have, because in the beginning, if you remember, I said that we are students, right? And students always have subjects in the school. And so similarly, I have subjects. My first subject is the subject of knowledge. Again, when I give nutrition to my mind and intellect, I allow my mind and intellect to become very strong. And in Brahma Kumaris, there is an emphasis on understanding of the knowledge, right? Because when I understand knowledge, then I can bring it into my life in a very practical way. Versus if somebody forces it on you, right? If they force it on you, yeah, you will do it probably, but then there won't be any consistency. There won't be any, love for what you're doing. So therefore, when you hear knowledge, it allows your third eye to open up, right? Your understanding opens up. And also what you had not seen before, probably you would see it now, you would understand it better. And then the second subject is subject of yoga. So when I know, that is not enough, right? Knowing is not enough, they say. So yes, I can see what I need to do, but even then I still require power to hold on to that vision. So for example, say I decide from today onwards that I will be honest, right? And okay, I know honesty is good, and people love to when they have honest people around them, and I will be honest, but what do I need to be honest? Hmm? I need something, right? Hmm? I need courage, right? I need power to face that. Even if the consequence is negative, I'm okay, I will face it. If I am ready, if I have that power, then I can be honest, right? And so I know the knowledge, but I understand the knowledge, but I need power. And that power, I can fill myself with spiritual energies only when I have remembrance, right? And so we have 4 things, 4 ways we do this. One is Amrit Vela, and we don't expect you all to, start getting up early in the morning. But whenever you get up, first thing in the morning you do is sit in meditation for 10, 15 minutes, right? Give your mind that peaceful vibration that it requires. Set yourself, set an intention for the day, and then you see how your day goes by very smoothly. The second concept is about the traffic control. So, you see people whenever there is a red light, they will stop, right? At the signal, they will stop. And it's necessary to stop so that accidents can be avoided. If imagine everybody decides not to stop at the red light, what will happen, right? And so similarly, we say that every time on the hour for 1 minute, can I stop and check what is the traffic of the thoughts that is going on inside, right? Which direction, what is the quality of the thoughts? If I check that, then it helps me to steer my thoughts and to be on the right track throughout the day. And then third thing is we do evening meditations. There's a saying that during the evening time, which is very beautiful time, the angels are touring around, right? And it is very helpful. The environment is helpful. The nature is helpful for me to connect with the Supreme very easily. So that's why there is significance of evening meditation. And the fourth aspect is you do meditation before you go to bed, right? So that you empty yourself. You tell Baba that this is what happened, this is what this person said, this is what I did, this is what I felt, and then you share your story with him and you put a full stop and then you sleep. So that's a very practical way of emptying yourself and being free of waste, so your dreams are also beautiful. So then the first is knowledge, then yoga, and then the third subject is to bring the practice of divine virtues, imbibing divine virtues. And it is same thing, like you can say, oh, this person has nothing, no divine virtues. 36 गुणों की बात होती है, 36 qualities are remembered, 36 virtues are remembered. And even if you say that 35 out of 36 are negative traits, there will be one quality which is good in that person, right? And so if I can focus on that one quality, then that is enough for me. Because whatever I focus, I automatically, unconsciously give it an invitation to become part of me. So if I focus on negative, then I'm giving that negativity invitation to become part of me. If I focus on positive, then I'm giving that positive thing to become part of me, right? And so it's very important for you to focus on that which is positive, even if it's just one thing, but you appreciate that person for that one thing that you see in them, which is good, right? So that is imbibing divine virtues. And when you have imbibed divine virtues, which is dharana, then based on your dharana, it's easy to serve not just yourself, but you will be able to serve your family, you will be able to serve your society, you will be able to serve the entire world, right? Because when you have practiced it enough, there is power in it, right? So, for example, let's say you learned something about peace as a point of knowledge, that peace brings stability, for example. You learn this knowledge, then you try to understand what does peace mean. Peace is really a power that the soul has. Peace is a natural quality. When I am peaceful, then my mind is also very quiet, very calm. And when my mind is calm, then the thoughts that go to my intellect will also be accordingly very calm, very peaceful. My intellect will be stable. I will be able to make decisions in the state of peace. And so my intellect will be able to understand what my heart wants. My heart will understand what my intellect wants. There will be an alignment between my head and heart. And so whatever decision I make will be very good. And stability will be there. So it's like I understood what peace is. I sit in Baba's remembrance and I fill myself with peace. And I bring that peace in my conversations, in my actions. So that is my dharana. And then when I am peaceful, when I think thoughts of peace, even for 1 minute, I am sending out the vibrations of peace into the world, right? And that's my biggest contribution. But the caveat is that the opposite is also true, right? Even if for 1 minute I think thoughts that are filled with anger, then I send the vibrations of anger into the world, right? And so it's up to me. What do I want to send, right? What do I want to do? I'm also remembering the story of Mahatma. Probably some of you must have heard. There was this Mahatma Ji who was very well known for his speech. Whatever he would say, people would do it. And so one time, this mother goes to him with his child, and she says, Mahatma Ji, I have tried to explain to my son a lot about, that eating too much sweet is not very good, but he does not listen. Can you please tell him? So the Mahatma looks at the child, gives him a smile, gives him a little sweet, and tells the mother to come tomorrow. So next day, the mother goes, and the Mahatma again looks at the child, gives him a smile, gives him a sweet, and then tells the mother to come tomorrow. And this continues for 6 days. And on the 7th day, the Mahatma says, okay, child, you should not eat too much sweets. It will not help you. And that's it, and tells the mother to go. And the mother thinks, the child actually does not ask for any sweet for 1 hour. And the mother thinks this must be temporary. So she keeps a watch on him. And it's afternoon and he does not ask for sweets. And it's whole days past and he does not ask for sweets. Next day morning, he does not ask for sweets. So the mother thinks, oh, this worked. So she goes to the Mahatma and she says, Mahatma Ji, this worked, whatever you said. But I have a question. I have a question that whatever you said on the 7th day, why you did not say it on the first day itself? And so Mahatma explains to her that I had a weakness. I have a weakness for sweet and I eat a lot of sweet myself. So before I could tell him, I had to practice not eating sweet. And when I was able to do that on the 7th day, I felt comfortable in telling him not to do it. And that's why there was power in that speech, right? When I practice something and I do it, it automatically serves, it automatically brings benefit, not just to me, but everyone around me. And that's why we say that self-transformation brings world transformation, right? So these are the pillars of Raj Yoga and the 4 subjects of the student life. And when we practice this way, then everything becomes very easy. And of course, you can start small and then, gradually increase and see how you would like to go about it. We do have advanced lessons, but maybe Sharmila will talk about it more. And I'm sorry I couldn't show you um, my PowerPoint, but I hope you get the message. And I did wanted to revise with you some slides, but now this is not working, so I will leave it here. If you have any questions, you can feel free to ask me. Do you have any questions? You all have understood everything. Okay. Okay, so maybe then if you don't have any questions and if you have understood everything, then I will give it over to Sharmila. We can't hear you. I think you're muted.
Okay. May I request you all to turn on your videos? Diptesh Bhai, Garima, GK, Dr. Chetan, uh,
Maybe you all can introduce yourselves a little bit and, tell about yourself, where you are from, and what you do.